So, which is the best photo merge option? Well, it all depends on your source photographs, of course. This is a fairly organic and curvy shot. There's not a lot of buildings, it's not a city scene, so Auto does a fairly good job of finding important details at the edge of each shot and aligning them together. It's more forgiving with things like hills, but if you did have a building, it'd be a little bit more tricky to get the building aligned if it overlapped the edge of two shots. And you've also got to take the lens distortion into account. As you pan, you can create curves around the edge of some of your shots, and that is why it's useful to have lots of different panorama options. For example, if you do have a lot of lens distortion, then you could try using perspective as the option, but you can see that just above this horizontal line here, it is distorting the image to get the perspective to fit between the three shots, and that means that you would have to crop above here to lose this transparent area at the top. So you might be better off with something like cylindrical, which is distorting in a different way, or you might just want to reposition the shot manually to try and get things aligned, especially if there's a lot of straight or vertical lines from buildings. We'll have a look at interactive layout in just a second, but let me just show you some examples that I've created earlier using some of these options here. So here's our auto panorama. Let's just get layers palette up to show you what the layers are doing at the same time. Here we go for a cylindrical panorama, so it's stretched the image out in a slightly different way at the edges, but there's not a huge amount of difference amongst the way it's blended the layers together. And here's one creating a panorama using reposition, which allows you just to drag up and down, but it's not distorting any of the details here. So this line here isn't stretched in a curve, it's now in a diagonal. Let's have a look at the auto. You can see that there's more of a curve here to the auto option. So, a bit of pros and cons there on the various versions, and if we now have a look at interactive placement, this gives you the most control over your panorama. So let's close those existing files, and now let's stitch it together for real using interactive placement. So go to File, New, Photo Merge Panorama, and let's choose our source files again, Panorama 1 to Panorama 4, click OK, and this time we're going to go to interactive layout. Click OK, and again it's now going to calculate it automatically and do as much as it can for you to start with. It's creating 4 different layers. It's going to create masks to allow you to blend between the layers, and again masks is going to be something that we could use to adapt at a later stage. But this time there's an intermediate stage. This is a little bit like Photoshop Elements 5's standard photo merge interface, and we can now go to town on adjusting things manually to get them as perfect as we can. So this is where the human element comes into play to help create the perfect panorama. And you can try zooming in a little bit to get a better view of your pan. This little bit of sky here is slightly darker and the cloud formation is slightly different, so we might need to play with that, but again layer masks will help us get a better alteration of that. Now if we click using this tool here, which allows us to position the shot, you can see the original photograph there, and you can see how much is being used of that. Here's another shot here, but we're also taking elements from this shot and this one hiding in the background as well. Actually it's quite difficult to access one of those images there, but you can just see that it's slightly offset all of the photographs, but it hasn't distorted any of them. Now you could try distorting things using the perspective option here, but what's going to happen when it does that, it's just doing a correction for the perspective to try and get it to mix. You end up with a shot that might be more true to the lens of the camera, and you get a nice kind of curve effect there, which is quite traditional with panoramas. But you're going to have to crop a lot of the detail, so it's pros and cons. Swings and roundabouts. Do you want to lose a lot of the edge here? You're going to lose a lot of this section down here if you do use perspective. If you've got lots of photographs and you want to make sure that one point is the most distant point, you can choose this tool here, which is the perspective tool, and just click to define which photograph is going to be the distance. I'm clicking on the far left one now, so you can see how it's straightening this area out and curving around to here. So that is what this tool is for. But so let's just click back on the middle there, which is a bit more of a traditional pan. And I don't really like the fact that you're losing a lot of the detail at the edge here, especially with these bits here. So I'm going to go back to reposition only, and I'm not going to distort the image. And I could shift these photographs by dragging them around, moving them up and down, just by click and dragging, but it's done a fairly good job. I mean, it's very, very sophisticated. Now, this is element 6. There's a lot of opportunity for the photo merge to evolve, and it's done a pretty cool job. If you do need to rotate a shot, use this icon here, and then you can rotate images to help them become aligned. And you can see there's a bit of ghosting there, or onion skinning, so you can overlap much more accurately. And then when you let go, it will help blend the edges together perfectly. Okay, so when you're happy with your preview here, click OK, and it will then start to create the layer masks and all of the stuff that we've seen it do before.